we can try.
The more I learn about Christianity, the more ridiculous it seems. I wonder how can people defend it so much for so long, with such bad arguments, and the conclusion I have come to is that most people act like sheeps and they want to keep on living like one. People generally try to not get out of their comfort zone. They want to have something to follow in their life without needing to think about if what they're following is actually good or true. Christianity provides people that comfort zone, so when it is challenged, people try to just justify their beliefs, instead of actually trying to search for the truth. They try to find arguments that would keep their beliefs strong. They don't think logically about if those arguments make sense or not because that is beyond their comfort zone. Christianity wants people to keep on acting like sheeps. It thrives on a system where people just want to get told what to do and not have to worry about actually challenging their beliefs. Because of this, you will see a lot of post hoc rationalization by Christians. For example, in Exodus 20 verse 11, it's written, "For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy." The people during the medieval era used to believe that the correct interpretation of the verse was that Earth was created in 6 days, but now because of the scientific discoveries, most people don't believe that and claim that God's time works differently. This is to keep their beliefs aligned with science, even though the verse itself remained the same, and no new information was revealed about it. This is a good example of post hoc rationalization from Christians. It shows how people will try anything to defend their beliefs unless they're proven wrong with facts. But even if they're proven wrong, some people still believe that science is wrong and the Bible is correct about Earth being created in 6 literal human days, which is honestly just delusional. Now let's talk about the biggest flaw in the Bible, which is what I like to call the good God paradox. Now this is just another version of the problem of evil, but mainly built for Christianity. So here is how it goes. If God is all good and all powerful, then why do we need to suffer? Why couldn't He have made a world where we could have all the benefits of the current world, just without the suffering? Now there are 2 logical conclusions we can come to from this question, which are, Conclusion A, God is not all good. If this is the case, then it would prove the Bible false, because God is stated to be all good in the Bible. Deuteronomy 32 verse 4 states, "He is the rock, His work is perfect. For all His ways are justice, a God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and upright is He." Conclusion B, God is not powerful and hence the Bible is wrong because it states in Jeremiah 32 verse 27, "Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is anything too hard for me?" Now that the groundwork has been laid, I will move on to more arguments which add to this paradox. The problem of free will. The issue with the Bible is that it doesn't promote free will, and even prominent scholars who studied the history of Christianity like Michael Fried agree that free will isn't promoted in the Bible. Now some, if not most of you guys may be wondering why that is a problem. It's a problem because the Bible, even if doesn't actively promote free will, puts the blame onto people for not believing in God. Why should people not be able to go to heaven and suffer because of something which they had no control over? It's stated in Jeremiah 10 verse 23, "Lord, I know that people's lives are not their own. It is not for them to direct their steps." So it's pretty clear that Christianity claims that God has control over every human decision. If you still believe that the Bible promotes free will, then comment down below. I want to know what your arguments are. But let me add one more thing, which is that true free will would mean that you are out of God's control, which would mean God doesn't have control over everything. It doesn't matter if God allows you to make a particular decision. Point still remains that you have the ability to do something outside of God's control, which would contradict the Bible because it states in Ephesians 1 verse 11, in him we have obtained an inheritance, having been predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will. So basically, in simple words, most non-believers will go to hell because and then be blamed for it even though they didn't have anything under their own control, which is contradictory to God being all just. If this is what justice looks like to you, then you need to get re-educated on what justice means, because your definition of justice is against what humanity values overall. Another argument which doesn't affect my core point, but I have seen people make, which is that people need to experience suffering in order to understand God's love and live peacefully in heaven forever. This is a basic overview of the argument, and before I debunk it, do you guys see the problem with it? If you don't, well, it's very simple. Heaven is supposed to last forever, which means a human will never be able to live peacefully and praise God forever. With the current mindset we have, this simply means God will either remove our ability to sin, or give us things which distract us from even thinking about sinning. Based on this, we can come to the logical conclusion that learning to love God in the current world doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme, because God has to actively take away or stop you from sinning indirectly or directly. So the question arises, why does suffering matter? The simple answer is it doesn't. Also, if someone wants to argue that it's a test to see how much someone likes God, to that I say God already knows everything, and like we have established before, in heaven God will stop you from sinning, so the test is irrelevant. To add on to this argument of suffering being unnecessary, God doesn't give anyone complete free will, so suffering is even more worthless. If God already controls everything, and knows everything, He could just put the people who will reach heaven in it from the very beginning. But since God doesn't do that, He is either not all good or all powerful, but in both of these cases the Bible will be proven false. Anyways, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and even if you didn't, tell me why in the comments. I hope you guys have a nice day or night. See y'all.